Captain, I would be lying to you if I told you there was a chance in hell of coming out of this alive.
Hello, welcome back to Star Trek Sodium.
This week we have some terrific facts, all about the absolute classic gold episode, Yesterday's Enterprise, whereby a freak time incident causes the two crews of the two Enterprises to meet each other in strange circumstances. One of the best episodes of The Next Generation. It was worked on by both Ira Stephen Bear and Ronald D. Moore, who would go on to make some of the very best episodes of all of Star Trek. Strangely, they barely had any work on Voyager.
One enemy target destroyed, sir.
One of the most memorable attributes of this episode is the return of Star Trek darling Denise Crosby as Tasha Yar, her soapy death years ago being undone by changes in space-time. The first problem that the producers had was tracking down the actress. They allegedly found her working in a West Hollywood car wash, where she would spend her days buffing customers' engines. Once they'd located her, they offered her an astonishing $1 million to come back for the one episode. But unfortunately, this was all due to a bad spelling mistake. Rick Berman had added 3 extra zeros to the Hensing offer by mistake. He wanted to only offer her $1,000 for the 1 week of work, but unfortunately for Berman, the Tasha Yar actress happily signed the contract for $1 million, which would lead for the next few episodes being heavily underfunded, having their budgets severely cut to make up the funds. In this episode, we see Tasha Yar make the brave decision to leave the Enterprise D forever and join the crew of the doomed Enterprise C, as per the amazing story by Ronald Moore and Ira Stephen Bear. But this nearly didn't happen. Reportedly, attempted meddling by New Bird of the Galaxy Rick Berman had him trying to get rid of Gates McSomething by changing the story to have Dr. Crusher be the one to leave the Enterprise D forever. Paramount studio head Frank Mancuso Sr. had to step in and stop Rick Berman's plan, as Gates McSomething still had 1.5 years left on her current contract, and he didn't like the idea of contracted staff sitting at home collecting a paycheck just because of Berman's current likes and dislikes. Lever Burton nearly didn't make it to the studio on the second day of the production of Yesterday's Enterprise. As his car was in the garage having a new set of wheels attached, his cousin Tim helpfully gave him a ride to work that day in his special Cadillac, forgetting that on the back seat he had some props that he was transporting for his production for a film he was working on. A dangerous-looking glove that had large pointy scissors attached. Once the Paramount security team spotted these dangerous scissor gloves on his backseat, they hauled aside Lever Burton and his cousin Tim and interrogated them, trying to find out exactly why they had these dangerous weapons. Thankfully, though, Lever made it into the studio for the afternoon. Everyone at the studio was pleased to see Tasha Yar actress return to Star Trek after nearly 2 whole years away, but one person who dreaded the return was Amelia Washbush, as she allegedly remembered how particular Denise was about only using her favourite comb while preparing her hair for any given episode, and during the 2-year absence, the comb had become lost or was perhaps stolen by some scrote. Amelia's fears were confirmed when the Yar actress sat down in the makeup chair for the day and was greeted by the comb of a stranger, She refused to let the tooth of this new comb touch her boyish hair. Walking away in a grumpy mood, she went to her car and used her own comb, something she would later say was something that no actress should ever have to do. Those of you with eagle eyes would no doubt have noticed that the data robot actor, Spiner, is wearing a new version of the Starfleet uniform, like most of the people in the episode, as he is in an alternate reality in this episode. But not only this, his hair also looks strangely different. Supposedly, the wig that he normally wears for paying Data had coffee spilled on it when he put it on a table at lunch break by young Will Wheaton. Instead, the only spare wig was a Chief O'Brien wig that was available, which had to have its curls straightened out. So if you're wondering why Data looks strange or slightly the same as Chief O'Brien, that's why. He's simply wearing a Chief O'Brien wig. This episode's dark and oppressive atmosphere is conveyed in its lighting. The Enterprise is bathed in a dull half-light, which alerts the viewers that we're watching a completely different reality. This was achieved by using less powerful lights in the studio that were shining down above the sets that the actors were filming their scenes on. After the darker scenes were finished, they were replaced with brighter lights, which required more energy consumption, making the Starship Enterprise appear bright and breezy once again. The Worf actor would note in a lost interview that at first things were bright like usual and then went dimmer when the lights changed to less powerful lights. The brighter lights came back afterwards after the dimmer lights were finished with. Now there's a turn up for the books. The story of this episode features a battle with Klingons, but the original aliens for the episode were to be a brand new race called the Fetyonk, who would terrorize the crew of the Enterprise C by blasting them, making their guts fall off. Michael Piller stepped in and suggested that instead of the Fetyonk, they should just use the tried and tested Klingons, just like the old days. And hey presto, that's exactly what they flippin' did. The crew of the Enterprise C bravely display the uniforms of yesteryear. This was achieved by them wearing the same flock of uniforms that were used for the Star Trek movies by Captain Kirk and his friends. But the problem was that the only uniform left for the character of Richard Castillo was actually Uhura's old uniform. Those of you with eagle eyes will probably note that the uniform doesn't fit him very well at all, especially around the bust, where there's ample room for elderly breasts, and yet the waist was extremely tight for his muscular, manly build. He said it also smelled quite strange and reminded him of when he used to visit his grandmother. Problems reared their ugly heads when yesterday's Enterprise was finished and went into editing. Rumour has it that the editors realised that Patrick Stewart had still been wearing his tap dancing shoes from an early morning lesson, and so the floor-mounted microphones were picking up all manner of clicks and taps as the shiny-headed captain made his way around the set. Luckily, they found a way to drown out most of the clicking by making the ship's ambient engine sound 10% louder, but this would be a lesson that they'd all be ashamed to talk about in the future, probably going as far as to deny it, even if they were asked about it today. It was during the production of yesterday's Enterprise that the Riker actor decided it was high time to remove his Hensing face beard. He got as far as beginning to pluck some of the external hairs from his face, when an emergency call from Rick Berman came in, expressly forbidding him to remove the facial treats. Luckily for the viewers of The Next Generation, the few hairs that he had plucked were barely noticeable, so most people can't tell the difference. The Riker actor was reportedly infuriated that Berman would conceive to order his face trimming ended, but as a company man, Frakes knew that he had to do what he was told, in fear of invoking Berman's awful wrath. Well, thanks for listening to my super interesting facts, all about the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, which is the 15th episode of Season 3, and one of the highest rated of all of Star Trek. Thanks for checking out my video. Hit like if you enjoyed some of these facts, and subscribe as well if you want some more facts in the future, as no doubt I'm going to find out some more terrific facts about future episodes and films and stuff like that. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.